So hit it.
Hello and welcome to This is the Play Sports, the podcast. It's episode number 11. Some people say 11's a lucky number.
It is for us.
I guess you could say that. Yeah, I guess it is. I feel lucky to have the guests we have today.
There you go.
Tell us about our guests we have today, Dad.
Well, a couple buddies of mine, Steve Klauke and Jim Burton, and
They're friends of mine as well.
They're friends of yours. They're friends of everybody.
Yes.
Media giants. So we're glad to have you guys. And heck, let's jump right into quarter number one and let's talk about it's Selection Sunday. Steve, what were your thoughts on the brackets when they came out?
Well, first of all, Michigan State and UCLA, I don't think belong in the tournament. I think they're in there because of their names and nothing else. There were some other teams, I think, like a Louisville that probably deserved it more than those teams did. I don't think Syracuse belongs in there. It's just somehow they let Boeheim win just enough games in the ACC tournament and the Big East tournament before that so that he has an argument to get in. And people get tired of listening to him, so they go ahead and put him in anyway.
You know, it was kind of interesting, Jim. Us and I were joking when the brackets came out that we thought maybe Duke would sneak in there because of their name and they'd want them on TV. And even if they only had 5 guys or whatever, but were you surprised in a play-in game with Michigan State and UCLA? I know they don't call it a play-in game, but it's a play-in game.
Yes, you need to stop doing that. Stop saying play-in game or you'll get a letter or an angry letter of reprimand. I thought it was kind of cool. I mean, I guess I was kind of hoping not to see Duke actually, only because they're in all the time. And I agree with Steve. Teams get in because it's a name. And I have a hunch the committee probably really wanted to put Duke in there, but ultimately just figured we can't make this happen. But I will also say that when you said the words 5 guys, I immediately started thinking about what I'm going to have for lunch tomorrow. And I do love a good 5 guys burger. And so you did distract me.
You know, it's interesting that, I've heard all this talk about, quad 1 wins, quad 2, quad this, how you have a strain quad, but that's about it. I think that whole system really was invented to keep good mid-major teams out of the tournament because because now the top teams, the Power 5 conferences, it's really hard for a good mid-major team to get a game against those guys and help their standings as far as their strength of schedule is concerned. Whereas they'll go for the lower end. So for example, in the Mountain West, they'll probably try to schedule Air Force rather than a Utah State or a San Diego State or what have you.
Right.
I tend to agree exactly with what Steve said. Yep.
Hey, Steve, you had a chance to go to the Big Sky tournament and such. There was a chance.
Not for very long.
Not for very long. A quick visit. Some say that's the best way to see Boise is quickly, but I'm not going to say that. But let's.
We have about 3 listeners in Boise. We don't want to upset
2
them.
teams from Utah got in the tournament. There was an opportunity. Utah Valley was flirting with it. Southern Utah, Weber State. Were you surprised only 2 got in, or do you think that was probably about right?
Well, that's probably about it because I'm sure at this point the WAC is a 1-bid league. The Big Sky is always going to be a 1-bid league, and Southern Utah won the regular season championship, but I wasn't really sold on them because with COVID situations and all that, they played 9 home games out of their 14, so only 5 on the road. And other than their 20-plus point loss at Weber State, most of their road games were against lower echelon teams. So I really wasn't sold on them. I was really disappointed with Weber State being eliminated by Montana in the quarterfinals. Montana did have that game under their belt, and quite frankly, the matchup sometimes isn't good against Montana. The other losses in the conference for Weber State that they were competitive in. The one loss at Montana's the kind of team that'll knock you off your blocks and get you out of your game. And I think that's what really happened in the game on Thursday until the Wildcats put on a full court press and turned a 16-point deficit into a 1-point game with 17 seconds to go. And then Montana gets forced to inbound the ball. 2 of the 3 officials call a 5-second violation to give the ball back to Weber State. But somehow the FAR official over near the bench said that Montana got a timeout in time.
Of course. And
conspiracy.
Hey, Jim,
Yeah, that would be great.
Jimbo, before we jump to the second quarter, do you have any quick thoughts? Do you think BYU or Utah State or either one of them are capable of winning a game in the tournament?
I think so. I like BYU. I like the job that Mark Pope has done. I think he has brought in kind of a different energy or a different feel with that team. They kind of have a little bit of a swagger. I think I've said this on here before, but I like watching BYU games and seeing the guys with hair a little bit longer. And I'm thinking some of the grooming standards or whatever they call them down there have been relaxed, and I get a kick out of that. So I think, man, if I could grow hair like that, that's what it would look like. That's what I would want it to look like.
It's not going to happen, but the last time BYU was a 6 seed, they made it to the Elite Eight.
Well,
yeah, I don't think it's going to happen, but man,
are you Danny
That's a great one, Steve. I remember that one.
Let's jump to the second quarter. Let's talk some Weber State football. And there's a guy that actually saw basketball and football this weekend. Steve, tell us about Weber State. A little bit of a problem this weekend, although they did win ultimately.
Yeah, UC Davis had a great game plan, both offensively and defensively, and it took the Wildcats a while to get going. They trailed 10-0 at the half, but came out to start the third quarter. Got the opening possession, took it 8 minutes down the length of the field, picked up a big fourth down. Jay Hill rolling the dice on a 4th and 3 at his own 35-yard line. Got the first down on a quarterback run by Bronson Barron, the freshman out of American Fork, and then drove the length of the field for the touchdown. Stopped the UC Davis on their 35-yard line, the Wildcat 35 on a 4th down play. Great open field tackle by Preston Smith, causing a 4-yard loss by the quarterback. And 2 plays later, they were in the end zone and had 2 points. And, that defense is so good. They struggled early on, but about early portions of the second quarter, Jerry Graybeal, my broadcast partner, and I noted that Jay brought every single defensive player into a huddle. Now, we asked him about that after the game, and he didn't remember it, but I know that it was a pretty stern speech that he gave to his defense, and his defense looked more like the Wildcat defense that we have learned to expect, and we're solid the last 2.5 quarters.
Jim, you're, Jay Hill well. Is this a wake-up call, you think, that Weber's got to come out and take care of business and not, find themselves in a close game like this?
I think so. I think, that's college football, whether you're playing it in October, whether you're playing it in March or, the end of February or whatever. I do feel like teams, the good teams survive games like that. And that team does have, as Steve kind of alluded, that team's got Jay Hill's fingerprints all over it. It does such a phenomenal job. And, let me just show you real quick. This is what I think about Jay Hill. This is my Rick's College football coffee mug. Jay, I'm a Rick's College alum, I will say, as is Jay Hill. And so Jay and I have that connection. But and in fact, I think he played on the last, may have been the last football team that Rick's had. But anyway, Jay is just he's tough. And that team's got his fingerprints on him. And what Steve tells that story about him pulling the defense over to the side, that sounds just like him. And that was a great play. That 4th down play that Steve mentioned, that open field tackle was that to me, that's just huge. And that is kind of a signature. I covered Weber State football back when they were terrible. And Steve, I covered the Cats when Jerry Graybill was the coach. I remember the year they were going to go winless, and then they beat Idaho State, which was kind of a fun one. And so I've seen the very lean years of Weber State football. This excites me to see that just the culture change with the Cats, and it's so much of it is Jay Hill, and I couldn't be happier for that program.
two things. One, it's ironic that it was against Idaho State because that was Jerry's alma mater. Mm-hmm. And second of all, after the game and talking to Jay, he says one of the things we're going to have to get better at, one of his problems his program's had over the years is playing well out of the gate following a bye week. Well, guess what? His next game's after a bye week.
Oh, there you go. Well, hey, speaking of alma maters, Austin and I are Utah guys. Austin, the Utes open spring ball tomorrow. Mm-hmm. What do you think?
Yeah, I think the big story for the Utes is, how they're going to respond. I think the feeling was they looked at this last season as kind of like a throwaway year. So I think it's really the year where they want to get back to business and see what they really can do. But, as we noted on Christmas Day, unfortunately, they're going to have to do so without Ty Jordan, who passed away tragically. So it'll be interesting to see how they rally around that and, what they want to accomplish.
Well, they maybe.
And they open against the Wildcats too.
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
Wow. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Steve's everywhere.
He's the human encyclopedia.
Plus, he's everywhere. Give me that. Hey, it's halftime, which means only one thing: the third quarter starts soon. Let's go to the Utah Jazz. They lost to the Golden State Warriors on Selection Sunday. Steve, are they still the team to beat given their record?
I think to a certain extent they are, but now I think they're starting to experience being the hunted as opposed to the hunter, and it's going to take them a while, I think, to get used to it. And the other thing is, maybe I'm way too old school, but I still go by the saying sometimes you live by the three, you die by the three, and it wasn't falling against the Warriors, and that, put them in a hole.
Yeah, Jimbo and I know that from intramurals up to you that live by the three, mostly die by the three.
Yes.
Even when the games don't really matter to anyone but us.
I love how we work that into any conversation we have on the This Is the Place podcast. Austin, I know you love hearing your old man and old Uncle Jimbo talk about great days of intramural basketball
100 times. So yeah, but it gets more fun every time.
Steve hasn't heard him for a couple of years, so we got to bring him up. But
yeah.
Hey, I still have in my shed my fourth place trophy. They kept track of individual points in intramurals at my high school in Illinois, and I accumulated the fourth most points of any student athlete in that school.
Fantastic.
That dwarfs all of our accomplishments.
That's a number retirement, if you ask me.
I built those points on things like co-ed bowling leagues and indoor gym hockey, but other than that,
you played a little money ball. You went after the niche sports, I guess. That makes sense. Yeah.
I would like to tell people,
it's the north suburbs of Chicago. We're a little bit, on the high end, at least not my family, but most of the families. So we went with the country club sports.
It's Midwestern values. And, I always tell people when I drive by East that I'm the all-time leader in minutes played without an assist and field goals attempted. So I hold a couple of school records in intramurals that'll never, ever be broken unless somebody knows how to gun it up as soon as it touches their hands like I did. But
you miss every shot that isn't taken.
Oh, some go in.
That's worth remembering.
Well, let's jump it back to the Jazz, Jimbo. What do you think? I mean, should there be cause for concern, and do they need that number one seed to win the West?
Well, I think Steve makes a great point. The concept of live by the three, die by the three, and that's NBA basketball now. That's also we make references to Jerry Sloan a lot on this podcast too. But yeah, that was one of the things, Jerry. That's one of the reasons why he wasn't always thrilled about the 3-point shot, because you miss them and you take one and you miss it, and it starts a fast break, and you can end up getting burned by it pretty quickly. There's a lot more analytics involved than Jerry would have ever imagined. Obviously, I never would think about Jerry as being a big analytics guy.
What the hell was that?
That's kind of. Can you imagine? Just the image of somebody going, well, Jerry, the plus minus that you guys had on the floor tonight.
Jerry, I think we should.
Yes.
If we try to make our second pass within this time frame.
That would be awesome to see that kind of response. I see Dirk's wearing the Hickory Huskers hat. That does remind me of the great Gene Hackman's one of my all-time favorite actors, and phenomenal in that role. So anyway, I think the Jazz are going to be just fine, but they are going to experience being the hunted, and we'll see how they rally around that.
Yeah, the only three-pointer that Jerry liked was the pull-up three that Stockton would hit usually at the top of the arc to set up a 2-for-1 at the end of the quarter.
Yep,
that was it.
He had to make it. You say, I don't want a shooting guard. I want a making guard. And
those guys play a pretty strict script, it seems like. But yeah,
I have a feeling Stockton could get away with things. Maybe some other guys couldn't. But one thing about
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, he had this. I was thinking about today too. The Jazz with their 3-point shooting, they went against the guy who shoots them better than anybody, and that one guy is good enough to change the game.
Steph Curry, by the way. That's
his name. Okay.
Yes.
That little guard that shoots from the other side of the gym.
Yep. And it was I believe it was his birthday yesterday, or maybe it's coming up. I know another good friend of mine had a birthday recently. We'll maybe discuss that later.
Please.
Yeah, and no one's interested in the fact that I'm 57 years old, but that's
We already talked about this earlier. Okay.
And send gifts to.
Yeah, okay. The old man had his birthday this week too. So happy birthday to Steph Curry and the old man.
And Jimbo had his birthday recently. It seems like all my buddies are turning 57. And Steve, you're in the 57 club too.
About 9 years ago.
I know, but we're still putting you in. You've been there, done that, but Steve's younger and works harder than the rest of us put together. So,
by the way, can I give a quick story on 3-pointers? I remember one time at a practice, and I'll never forever forget this. And I only saw one of these two do a game, but at the end of practice, once Greg Foster and Greg Ostertag challenged each other to a game of horse, and believe it or not, guys, I saw both Foster and Ostertag hit 8 consecutive 3-pointers.
I thought you were going to say
Foster would take it in a game, but Ostertag would get benched if he tried it.
I thought maybe you were going to say the game ended because neither one of them could remember how to spell horse.
Wow.
There's an E.
You really want Greg Foster coming after you? I don't.
No.
Remember, Greg Foster's got a ring.
Exactly.
Unbelievable.
He does have a ring.
I remember Greg Foster when he was at remember when he was playing in the WAC. Dirk and I would cover WAC basketball games up at the Special Events Center, as it was known probably back then. And Greg Foster playing for UTEP. He was a scary cat, but those were some good teams.
I'm just trying to think like how viral a video of Ostertag hitting 8 consecutive 3-pointers would go in today's social media age.
Steve, exactly. you wouldn't have to work now, Steve. You'd be making so much money off YouTube.
Well, what's funny too is at his size, he was after he retired, he was in a recreational ice hockey league down in Phoenix.
Yes.
Oh wow.
We have a story about that too. The place that I played hockey in high school, and the place we would go to get my skate sharpened every week or so. The guy told me he was a childhood friend of Greg Ostertag. And they played hockey together until he couldn't find skates that fit him anymore. And then once he got his NBA money, he could pay for, custom made skates. But yeah, he said Ostertag loved hockey. You remember him telling us that, right?
Yeah. If only he had Herman Munster's number,
and
he could have got some skates.
And I guess Popeye Jones, remember that guy who played?
Yeah.
How can you forget him?
Yeah. His son was like a top draft pick in the NHL draft a few years ago. He's a defenseman for Blue Jackets or something. Yeah.
I think that he was that kid's a heck of a player.
Yeah.
I actually got to broadcast Greg Ostertag high school game when his high school came up to Chicago for a tournament.
Oh my gosh. Small world.
Texas boy, Grand Prairie, something like
Duncanville.
that.
Yeah. Duncanville.
The Plano Wildcats, where I went to high school, we owned Duncanville. I'm just going to say it. We own Duncanville.
Yeah, owned it. Hey, fourth quarter, guys. Let's jump into minor league baseball, and we have an expert here. We got 2 experts actually, but Steve's got his pulse on things. Steve, can you just tell us a little about the changes that are taking place? No more Pacific Coast League and a smaller league for the Salt Lake Bees.
Yeah, it's the Major League Baseball kind of manhandled minor league baseball into getting rid of 42 teams, restructuring everything. There's no Pacific Coast League, International League. The Bees are in a 10-team league that's called right now AAA West, but it's opening the door for Major League Baseball to try to find corporate sponsors. So it could be the Toyota AAA West Conference or something like that. 2 5-team divisions. The Bees will be in a division with Tacoma, Sacramento, Reno, and Vegas. The other division will be Albuquerque, El Paso, Oklahoma City, Round Rock, and the new team Sugar Land, which had been an independent team for many years. It's in a suburb of Houston. So that's the 10-team league. So no more trips to or visits from Omaha, Iowa, Memphis, and Nashville. And the number of Cub and Cardinal fans that live here will be disappointed that they can't come to the ballpark and watch their AAA players.
Yeah, no more Iowa trips. That's I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Doesn't Joe Craven's daughter
Shelby,
she works for the okay, that's
well, okay. I've got to say this in the spirit of Jimbo, but AAA West kind of sounds like a menage a trois resort in Las Vegas, doesn't it? What a weird name. Not that I'd know, but Jimbo, what do you think of the changes? And Jim covered the Ogden Raptors for years and years, and the Pioneer League's undergoing some changes too.
It breaks my heart a little bit just because that's minor league baseball is important, and if this is the new normal, I don't want any part of it. But I guess that's what we're gonna have to do. When Steve said that about the sponsorship thing, I didn't realize that, and that to me is kind of silly. But
well, actually, I want to say, Jim, a few years ago, I think it was about 6 years ago, minor league baseball tried to sell to AAA a sponsorship with Anheuser-Busch, and they were actually going to be called the Busch Leagues. But fortunately, the team owners said no.
Why don't
maybe they should
AAA?
AAA.
Yeah,
that's Austin. We're on the same wavelength.
Yeah.
I'm like that seems to me that makes sense, and then. Coke could be the AA MCL.
There you go.
You could do that with the AA. It's just it's difficult for me because I guess I'm old enough now. I'm a grouchy old guy now, and I don't mess with my minor league baseball. Just don't do it.
And really, the team that's responsible for all this, that got the ball rolling on this, is the same team that brought us cheating in the World Series, the Houston Astros front office. And for those of you who don't know, the Pioneer League will still exist, but it's going to be independent players, those who are undrafted and unsigned by major league teams. And quite frankly, it's going to be expensive. I mean, I think the way Dave Baggett runs the Raptors, I think they'll be okay in the long run. But I don't know that Great Falls can survive, paying the players out of their own pockets as opposed to being an affiliated team with a major league franchises paying for their salaries.
And these were great minor league cities and minor league baseball meant a lot to places like that in the summertime. And you make a good point, Steve. That's probably going to end up going away.
Yeah, and the other bad thing is that with the Pioneer League coming back, that means we're going to have to live through the Missoula Paddleheads instead of the Missoula Osprey.
Oh, that's a shame.
The Paddleheads.
Get your hats now. That's Austin. Any thoughts on minor league baseball changing?
Yeah, I mean, it's just going to be not. I think the AAA West League is. The Bees are going to play in the Western Division. Is that right? So it's going to be AAA Western Division, which is weird. Yes. So I think they got to work that out. But no, I mean, I have so many good memories of going to Smith's Ballpark, and a lot of them include seeing Steve there. So, I mean, it's just going to be great to have baseball back in any way. But, the changes will be weird, I'm sure.
I think that's
one of the changes was to cut down on travel. And yet the Bees' first road trip schedule, which was wiped out when they took away the April schedule, was Sugar Land, which is Houston, Sacramento. So there's nothing money saving about that schedule. They need to think about that a little bit. They've got Las Vegas at home for 30 out of 45 days in July and August. Who wants to go to Vegas then?
Oh, man. Exactly.
We played a series there a few years ago, and it was like the 4 game time temperatures were 116, 115, 113, 113.
Oh, man.
Wow.
Tell you what, nothing slips past a baseball owner. Anything's possible, and logic doesn't seem to be in the equation at all. But it is what it is.
Wow.
Well, guys, I appreciate you joining us for our 4 quarters. We're now to the parting shots. Jim, what do you have to say?
I've got one. I've actually I'm become a big fan of listening to books, audio books. It started several years ago when I was commuting to West Valley when I was working at Rocky Mountain Raceways, and so I recently started listening to a book about Joe Frazier, who's an interesting character. I was as a kid, my dad didn't like Muhammad Ali, and so I did, and but anyway, this last week, the day before a buddy's birthday, marked the 50th anniversary of the fight of the century, 1971 at Madison Square Garden, the first meeting of Ali Frazier, and that was the one where Smokin' Joe beat him. And anyway, this book I'm listening to about Joe Frazier, I find it fascinating. He is so much different than Ali. It's really it's kind of an interesting listen or a read. So I've become more of a Smokin' Joe Frazier fan. So shout out to the fight of the century 50 years ago.
Steve, what's your parting shot?
Well, this was kind of a small blip maybe here the other day, but Hall of Fame broadcaster for the Cleveland Cavaliers, and for a while the Cleveland Indians, Joe Tate, passed away. And like I say, it was probably a small blip in the radar, but actually Joe got his start at the same radio station in Aurora, Illinois, where I had worked before I came here. Through a mutual friend, we got to know each other the last couple of years I worked in Aurora. And then in December of 1989, that station folded, and Joe was very helpful. He actually had gotten for me a chance to be the new voice of the New Orleans Saints back in 1990, but Jim Finks, the president of the Saints, vetoed my hiring because I had no prior NFL experience. Well, fast forward, and Joe was one of several people, but one person in particular who was very helpful in me landing out here with that job with the Jazz and working with Dave Blackwell and Ron Boone back in 1991. So we always got together when the Cavs came to town. He was just a great guy, one of the best basketball broadcasters you'll ever hear. And so it definitely brought a little moisture to the eye when I saw that he had passed, because without Joe, I probably wouldn't have landed in Salt Lake City. And, at that point, that was kind of a last gasp, because I had been unemployed in sports broadcasting for 19 months and gotten so desperate I had actually applied for a job as a reservationist for Amtrak. And that's real job security.
I might be doing that myself if I don't get a job soon. So, hey, sorry about your loss, Steve. I had no idea there was a connection between you two guys. And so those great parting shots, guys. Austin?
Oh, man, mine seems so much lamer than, Joe Frazier and, broadcasting legend. We were laughing today about the kid on Utah State's basketball team who wears number 44 because he really likes the Wendy's 4-for-4 combo. Yeah, I can't remember the guy's name, but he went kind of viral on social media last couple of days. But anyway, it was funny. Like we were watching that, and then we were watching the selection show, and we noticed that Wendy's was one of the presenting sponsors for the NCAA tournament. And so I made the joke, I wonder if Wendy's pushed for Utah State to get into this so they could have the advertising, with the guy with the 4-for-4 jersey. So I thought that was kind of funny.
And my parting shot, I'm going to hail back to 1971 as well. And that was the year the Utah Stars won the ABA championship, coming up on the 50th anniversary of that in about 2 months. And with the Jazz doing so well this year, it kind of stirs up those memories. And, a lot of people that didn't grow up in Salt Lake City can't remember that. And I was a kid and, just adored the Stars and everything about them. And I had the chance on the 30th anniversary. In fact, Austin was with me. We were up in Seattle, and we got to go to Zelmo.
20 years ago?
20 years ago. We got to go to Zelmo Beatty's house, and Willie Wise was his neighbor, and he came over, and they talked. Wow. We sat in their house and talked. Zelmo made us take our shoes off before we went in the house, which, we're Utah boys. We wear our shoes everywhere, but
That's
we
right.
did it. But what a great memory.
They were
What
so
great
nice
days.
to me as a little kid. They were like, I just remember
That's cool.
Zelmo was so nice
And
to
I,
me.
and I would sure like it to see someday that there be a banner hanging in the
Let's
the arena.
hold on. Let's.
So
I hope you had a good
Austin's
pair
gonna
of
do it
socks.
right now.
oh, look at this. Nice action shot.
There you go.
That's when we saw him, and
That's
Zelmo
cool.
has since passed away, and but what great guys! And I'll tell you what, the state should be proud of that accomplishment, and I just don't think we hear enough about it. And if you think about it, you can say, well, it was just the ABA, but you combine the number of teams in the NBA at the time and the ABA at the time, and that tells you the best players in the world were in those two leagues. So that's my parting shot. Before we leave tonight, Austin's got some housekeeping. Plus, we have our drawing for our prize. And just to show you, I kind of put the prizes on display. Probably turning this the wrong way, but we got some gear here that we're giving away to
That
people.
looks like Lavelle Edwards. That's Coach Edwards' old hat.
Correct. Yeah.
As far as you know, it's not, but yes.
So yeah, anyway, so just some other stuff. We're doing a bracket challenge for the NCAA tournament. So we started an ESPN bracket challenge group. So
and the dogs want to be on the show.
the dogs.
Oh, look at these guys.
So yeah, we're doing a bracket challenge on an ESPN group. So make sure you join, enter that. We're giving prizes away to the top 3 finishers in that. Just check us out on social media, other stuff like that. So without further ado, we hold Mick. We're
Look
going.
at Mick.
Look at Mick. He's trouble.
He's
I love Mick.
ham. Yeah. So without further ado, let's do the drawing for our newsletter winner for this week. Got all the names here. If you could just do me the honors and press the center of the wheel. There you go.
I'm an old man. I don't know how to do stuff.
You know how to double click?
I can pull a slot machine
It's not
handle, but
showing up
that's
very well on
about
the
it.
camera.
I've seen you do that.
Oh, this is hilarious. Roy Burton is our winner.
Roy Burton.
Oh,
Hey,
Roy.
related to Jim Burton.
We're not related, Roy and I, but it's Roy.
He works at
It's the same
KSL.
Roy I'm thinking of. We're brothers in ink.
Brothers in
Absolutely.
they're Standard Examiner and Deseret News colleagues, and now he's at KSL. But I appreciate just anybody that signs up. You can be in a weekly contest and pick your prize here. And congratulations, Roy. Austin, how about some housekeeping and send us home?
Yeah, just like I said, bracket challenge. Check out more of our stuff. Big thanks again to these guys for joining our podcast as well. So,
and I want to thank Austin's sister, Sammy. She's behind the controls here, pushing all the buttons, making things happen. And just a reminder, we're a growing audience, and anywhere you can get podcasts, we'd love to have you invite a friend to join us. And let's get that wheel so big that the old man will have to spin it twice to get it to go around because it's so heavy.
Sometimes we want it where people we don't know win.
that would be ideal. No more blood relatives or angry
Or
ex-girlfriend.
non-blood relatives, but
The good thing
and a
is,
shout out also to Dirk's hat, by the way. That is a cool
I got
hat.
that at the Indianapolis airport, but I love that movie.
Thanks for picking that up for me, Dirk. I appreciate you thinking of me.
No problem. Hey, it was only like $80. It wasn't that much.
Oh, the airport gift shop.
No, it was.
Don't get caught watching the paint dry. That's all I have.
Okay, Norman. No, the funny thing is, say about people we don't know, we only know so many people, so we're probably kind of running out of people we know. So the odds of a stranger winning are pretty good, I think. So sign up today. And
Yes, they are. Yes.
Steve and Jim, best wishes to you. Thank you for giving us your time, and you're the best in the business. And thank you.
Thanks for having me on.
Thanks, guys. Good seeing you, Steve.